How important is the privacy of an LLC to you? Will you still get or need an LLC if there is no more privacy? The reason I ask is because one of the main reasons people get an LLC is for the privacy and the protection. The privacy being the thing that provides the protection. But what will you do when the privacy is no more? You see, on January 1st, 2024, almost every business in the United States will be required by law to disclose who the owners are, making privacy not so private. So in today's video, I'm going to reveal to you why this is happening, who it's happening to, what you need to do to be prepared. And you want to make sure you stick around to the end because I'm going to show you what will happen if you don't comply. Let's go. All right, family. So at this point, I know you may be wondering, favorite uncle, cousin, what is going on? So without any further ado, let me introduce you to what is happening. Please allow me to introduce you to what is called HR 2513, also known as the Corporate Transparency Act. Now, before we dive too deep into the HR 2513, also known as the Corporate Transparency Act, I believe it fitting that you know who exactly is responsible for the Corporate Transparency Act. So let me go and get it up here and pull it up. So again, let me introduce you to these guys here, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. To us as tax professionals, we know them as FinCEN, and you can kind of guess what they're responsible for, right? Financial crimes. But they are the agency that brought forth what is now known as the Corporate Transparency Act. So let me go ahead and bring that back up because I want to be able to read the text so you can see what is going on, why business owners are now going to be, I don't want to say exposed, but I guess, yeah, we can't hide behind LLCs and corporations no more. And this is why. So let's read the text. The Corporate Transparency Act, and we'll see it right there. It has been enacted. Well, first, before we get in there, look at the date. This was back in 2019. And as a side note, I'm going to just, kind of step on a soapbox for a little bit. I've been warning people about these LLCs and not getting them for protection and privacy since 2016. This was enacted, or said it was brought to Congress back in 2019, and then now come January 1st, 2024, it is going to be made official. I just wanted to put that out there as a side note. Let's get back to it. Look at the text here, right? Understand, it's an act. The reason this exists is to ensure that persons who form corporations or limited liability companies in the United States disclose the beneficial owners of those corporations or limited liability companies in order to prevent wrongdoers from exploiting United States corporations and limited liability companies for criminal gain. Okay, pay attention to that. To assist law enforcement in detecting, preventing, and punishing terrorism, money laundering, and other misconduct involving United States corporations and limited liability companies for other purposes. Now, according to this text, the Corporate Transparency Act was created to help the U.S. government combat money laundering and terrorism. They going after the big fish. But as we all know, anytime that the big fish or people go after the big fish, the little fish get caught up in the net. So even though it's specifically going after those who are trying to elicit these big major crimes, money laundering, financing terrorism, and all that good stuff, everybody who owns an LLC or corporation, which includes S Corp, is going to be impacted by this because of what's happening. So now that we know why privacy is no longer going to be a thing when it comes to LLC owners, corporations, and even trust. And yes, I say trust because I know when this hit the ground, everybody's like, oh, well, I'm moving from LLC to a trust. I'm going to keep my privacy. Listen, it's not going to work the way we think it is. And this is why. So now the question is going to come. Let's get to this. Let's keep it going. Who is this going to impact? Well, the answer to that question is this is going to impact what is called the beneficial owners. Okay. And here it is. Now, this is the thing. The beneficial owners and individuals who have filed an application with a specified governmental authority to create the entity or registered it to do business. So beneficial owners was the thing, right? And we're going to get into that in just a few minutes. But here's that catch-all net. Beneficial owners or individuals who have filed an application with the state. So if you filled out any kind of documentation, filed it with your state to form your business, you are included with that. And because of that, that's pretty much any and everybody who formed an LLC, any and everybody who formed a corporation, because those are created at the state level by filling out applications and submitting it to the state. So this is who is going to be impacted by that. Okay. So now let me explain who a beneficial owner is. It is a person or an individual who exercises substantial control over a corporation or limited liability company. Note it says directly or indirectly. So let me address what I mean by indirectly. Indirectly includes joint ownership with one or more persons, meaning that if you have a business with your spouse or you a business with a partner, okay, that includes that. Through another individual acting as a nominee, intermediary, custodian, or agent, meaning that if you try to put it in your child's name who's under the age of 18, because technically can't nobody under the age of 18 have a business, you're going to have to be the custodial. So you're going to be the one reporting. A trustee, grantor, settler, or beneficiary of a trust. This is in the language. So again, I'm putting this out here to let y'all know that don't try to do nothing slick. Just handle your business, right? Like don't try to listen to the internet and be like, oh, you can do all these things to avoid paying taxes, and it's not going to do nothing but cost you more money than it's going to save you and cause you a whole lot of headache when dealing with the IRS come January 1st, 2024. And the last one there says that indirectly is this, right, through ownership or control of one or more intermediary entities that separate or collectively own or control ownership interests of the reporting company. What that means is if your LLC decides to form another LLC, just because the LLC owns the sub LLC doesn't mean it's going, there's not going to be any disclosures. You're still going to have to disclose this information. All right. So let's get back to it, because there's one other thing I really want you to know here, or getting to the remaining of who a beneficial owner is, because there's 4 things to know. The second thing is a beneficial owner is someone who owns 25% or more of the interest in a corporation or limited liability company. And with the interest simply means the ownership, right? Like, so for example, if there was a partnership, if y'all split it 50-50, well, both of y'all would own more than 25% of the interest in that corporation. If you are the sole owner, obviously you own more than 25%. You own 100% of what's in their corporation. So 25% or more of the interest. Now, there can be, there can be an exception to the 25% or more. And that is for those who are, what do they call? Like, it's just a term for a partner, right? Like you're not a general partner, limited. No, I couldn't think about that. For those who are limited partners in partnerships, meaning that your only interest in there is your financial investment into that partnership. So you're not necessarily making decisions because you're not necessarily part of the management team. You're not, how can I say, a beneficial owner in that sense, right? Because you only contributed a certain amount of money, which was financial, and you're looking just to get a return on your investment. You don't have any other authority outside of that. That may be the only exception to this particular one here, being somebody who owns 25% or more of the interest in the corporation. But as I said, there's an or there, or a beneficial owner is somebody who receives substantial economic benefits from the asset of a corporation or a limited liability company. Now, this kind of goes into opposite of what I just said, depending on your investment and what you're getting on return from that investment. But let me say this, as far as I've read, there are no specific amounts that will say what a substantial economic benefit is. So it could be different depending on the circumstance, right? A substantial economic benefit for $100,000 company obviously is going to be something different for $1 million company, right? So it's all going to be based on the facts and circumstances. So there is nothing written at this point that says this is the specific amount, this is the specific percentage. Nothing yet. Everything is going to be based on case-by-case basis, all right? So next thing I want to know, now that we know who a beneficial owner is and who's going to be responsible for reporting, let's talk about the entity types. What entity is going to be required? And as it stated here, it is going to be every existing, amended, or new corporation, limited liability company, or other entity created by filing registration documents with the Secretary of State or foreign entity registered to do business and stuff inside the state. So let's dive into that. Again, existing, amended, or new. They've covered all their bases right there. Whether it's a corporation, limited liability, or other entity created by registering documents. A lot of people will say, well, a trust, you don't fill out documents and submit it to the state. However, you still have to get a tax ID number for it. And in reading what we saw previously, reading that, trusts are included in that. So don't think that you're going to get a trust and remain private. All of this is things are changing. What I want you to take from this is don't try to remain private. Just do good business. All right. So let's continue on. Now that we know everything, the next question is, what exactly are you going to have to disclose? So as a beneficial owner, be prepared to disclose for the business itself, the business name, which includes any trade names or DBAs. Be prepared to include the current address. Now, I have read for the business, I do believe P.O. boxes will be acceptable for that. So that's fine. Current address. And then you're also going to want to include the state or the jurisdiction of formation. Okay. And finally, the EIN. That's for the business itself. Now, for the beneficial owner, the individual who owns this business, what are you going to be required to disclose? Obviously, the first thing is going to be your legal name, your birth date, your current address. And here's where they switched it up. They got specific for the beneficial owner itself. No P.O. boxes. They want the home address of the beneficial owner. And like I said before, for the business itself, we can include P.O. boxes. But for the beneficial owner, they want to know where you live at, partner. So don't try to be slick on that one. All right. Next, you're also going to want to include a copy of your driver's license and or passport or anything that has identifying numbers or some sort of document, like if you don't have a driver's license or a passport, there is a list of other acceptable documents that are issued by the government, which you can use to fulfill this particular requirement. But notice, they just don't want the information off of the driver's license. They want the actual photocopy of your ID and or your passport. They want to see your face. Get it? Like I say, privacy, not no more. These are all the things that you are going to need to do going forward. Okay? So the question that really, now that we know, look, yeah, I'm giving up all this information, who is going to have access? Well, it's obvious. The U.S. government, all of their bureaus, branches, and information and things like that, they're going to have access to it. Law enforcement will now have access to this information. Tax authorities are going to have access to this information. And of course, financial institutions are now going to have access to this information. So the idea that, like I said in the beginning, that the whole privacy thing is definitely out the window. Now, I don't believe, and it hasn't been stated, at least in any of the documentation that I've read, I don't believe that it's just going to be like out there in the public, right? Like they're not going to have this information just any and everybody can log on to some sort of website and access this database. From what I understood, it's going to be secured by FinCEN, the Financial Enforcement Crime Network, but that information is going to be available, again, I'm assuming by request to those agencies, right? Think about that. Law enforcement agencies, tax enforcement agencies, financial institutions, all of that information is going to be available to those agencies. So if there is lawsuits involved, and they get the courts involved, that's a branch of law enforcement. They can go access those records. So it's not trying to form an LLC. So if something goes wrong, we cover it. Now it's time to form LLCs to be strategic, which means it's going to be important to understand when to form an LLC at a very specific point in business, not necessarily at the beginning, like I've been saying since 2016, but when it makes financial sense to do so. Because the idea of, I'm going to form the LLC so I can hide behind it, I can operate, and if I make a mistake, then nothing's on me. Well, that goes out the window January 1st, 2024. All right. So getting back to it, lastly, we want to talk about what will happen if you fail to comply with these new rules and regulations. First thing is this: you will incur penalties. Look at that amount of $500 per day, up to $10,000. Think about that. And I really want y'all to really pay attention to that number, $500 per day. That it isn't that the form, that the paperwork isn't filled out and submitted to FinCEN, up to $10,000. And let's just be honest with ourselves. Let's really just be honest, right? Half of us, or a lot of us, have a hard time with the paperwork. As a tax professional, I sit up here at the tax desk and I deal with individuals with LLCs, and I'm like, have you done this? Have you done that? Where's your operating agreement? Where's the shareholder meeting minutes? Where all this? Don't have it. At this point, y'all don't want to play with not having paperwork. You want to be real serious about having paperwork, because $500 a day, up to $10,000 just because you failed to submit some information? We don't want to do that. No. So if you are already an LLC owner, S Corp owner, trust owner, corporation owner, get into the habit of getting these things. I mean, it's very simple. We saw it is not asking for much. That document that you should have on hand somewhere. If not, gather it now and get ready. Put it somewhere. Put it in a file. Put it on somewhere where you can easily accessible, because nobody wants to pay $500 a day up to $10,000 just because we didn't submit the paperwork. Okay. The other thing that can result if you do not comply is up to 2 years in jail. Now, look at the word that's before the very, let me look at the beginning word that says and. So not only can you be penalized $500 a day up to $10,000, and on top of that, it's possible you can spend up to 2 years in jail just because you didn't submit the paperwork. Who wants to go through that? Nobody, right? So again, when is all of this taking effect? January 1st, 2024. That's when all of this information is going to take place. That's what this law, again, we saw it started back in 2019. However, it is going to take effect January 1st, 2024. However, here's something I want us to understand. However, if you formed your company before January 1st, 2024, you have until January 1st, 2025 to file the required information. Now, when I read this, I laughed because it's like, yes, this is taking effect January 1st, 2024. But our government knows that most business owners have a very hard time when it comes to paperwork. And it's understandable because most business owners focus on the business, not the administration, not the back office. They like, yeah, somebody else is going to do that. Fine. I ain't worried about it. They worried about getting to the bag, and that's that. So they gave you an additional whole year to get those 4 things to them. So if somebody who already has a corporation, if you can't get those 4 documents, your legal name, your address, your birthday, your photo ID, if you can't get those 4 things to the government by January 1st, 2025, a whole year after they implement this Corporate Transparency Act, I'm going to just say, so you probably need to get fined $500. I'm going to just put it out there because that's ridiculous. They say, you know what, we understand they ain't going to have it on January 1st, 2024. We understand. So we're going to give them a whole year to get it. So if you can't get it by that date, then yeah, maybe not jail, but some financial penalties. Yeah, buddy, boy, hit people in their pockets. It really hurt. Okay. So again, if your company was formed before January 1st, 2024, you have until January 1st, 2025 to get the required information to the government. Otherwise, if you formed your company on or after January 1st, 2024, you have 30 calendar days to file the required information. Okay. So if you already have your LLC, your S Corp, your trust, your corporation, you technically have until January 1st, 2025. Okay. But for my new folks out there who are figured, you know what, I'm gonna wait, or whatever reason being, I'm gonna wait until next year to form my corporation. Do understand that the moment you do it after January 1st, 2024, you have 30 calendar days to submit that information. No ifs, no ands, no buts. And as a matter of fact, it's 30 calendar days from the date you receive the notice from the state, right? It's not 30 calendar days from the day you submit the application, but 30 calendar days from the date that you receive the seal, or should I say the stamp of approval from the state that says, okay, yes, you are permitted to start transacting business. The moment you get that notice, that's when your 30 days starts. Okay. So what else is there? Oh, yeah. Also, you have 30 calendar days to report any changes, updates, and inaccuracies. Okay. So what that is saying, again, can't be slick on this one here, right? Somebody want to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and put so-and-so name on the application, and then 30 days later, I'm going to change it to me. No, we have to comply, right? 30 days after that, you have to report any and all changes, updates, and inaccuracies. Again, if not, people, we know what we're looking at. $500 per day, up to $10,000, up to 2 years in jail. Nobody wants that. Again, this is called the Corporate Transparency Act, or let me go all the way back to the beginning here, just because I want to put it up one more time. Here it is, the full text. You can look it up. You can Google HR 2513, or you can Google the Corporate Transparency Act. Of course, this was just a screenshot of the entire bill. But there it is, man. For all limited liabilities, companies, and things of that nature, this is what we're going to have to do. So with that being said, this is brand new. Again, this will be starting the recording of this video. We are still currently in May, so we still got a couple of more months before January 1st, 2024. But act now, start getting ready for this reporting. Put that as part of your office procedure. Make that part of your whatever it is you do. Start talking to your tax professional, your bookkeeper, see if there's something that they're going to offer, something that's going to be there, because again, you don't want to be caught off guard. Now, as of the recording of this video, they have not said how they're going to collect this information, meaning that they have not said, okay, here's a website you're going to be able to fill out. Here's the form you fill out. Here's how you submit it. That part we do not know, but I'm sure the closer we get to January 1st, 2024, that information is going to be made known to us. So what I'm going to suggest is that if you're not already, make sure that you follow me on social media, right? You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and things like that, because when I get information, I'll make sure to delve it out. You can also go to the website and make sure that you stay tuned that way. A lot of resources there. At the self-employedtaxguy.com. I'll make sure I update that information there. And if you're part of the mailing list, then obviously I'm gonna email you there. But let's keep in tune. Check back again. But there we are, people. We know HR 2513, the Corporate Transparency Act. Privacy is no more. Does that mean that LLCs are dead and worthless? Absolutely not. They still have their purpose in the business world. They still will serve you well in the business world when it makes financial sense to get one. Do you need one up front to start your business? Absolutely not. If you don't know how to do it, make sure to check out my No LLC, how to start your business with No LLC 5-day challenge. I break everything down for you real easy. Check that out there. But aside of that, people, get the paperwork ready. Get the documents ready, because nobody wants to be paying $500, $10,000. Nobody wants to be spending time in jail. So that's it for me. Of course, let me know your thoughts. How are you feeling now that everything is going to be disclosed as a business owner? Let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it. But that is it for me, my good people. Know that your favorite Uncle Cousin Tyrone Gregory love you. Also, before I forget, make sure that if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell icon, and I will see you on the next video. Know that I love y'all, and I'll see you soon.
Perfect.